Good morning. My name is Sarah Stern, and I'm the founder and president of EMET. And welcome to an extremely topical, extremely timely, and extremely important webinar. Today marks exactly 1 year and 2 days since the Islamic Republic of Iran and its many terror proxies had imposed a war on the state of Israel. It also marks the longest war in the state of Israel's history. It's been a very somber week, and all of us must never forget that there are still 101 hostages, dead or alive, living or not living, in those horrific terror tunnels beneath Gaza. There's a tremendous open wound that many in Israel will feel for the rest of their lives because of the sadistic, barbaric events of that day. And we must never delude ourselves and fall for the fancy rhetoric of many members of the foreign policy establishment. We must never forget that there are those who mean to totally eradicate the state of Israel. We know that Israel was taken by surprise on October 7th, and on October 8th, Hezbollah joined into the fray, displacing some tens and tens of thousands of residents of the north. We've watched Israel has tried to pick up the pieces from the tremendous and horrific devastation of October 7th. We marvel at the courage, determination, and resilience of the Israeli people, and especially of the brave men and women of the IDF. Although a great deal of the Hamas infrastructure has been decimated, and Israel, with its well-executed maneuvers, has knocked out much of Hezbollah's infrastructure, and ground forces are in Lebanon as we speak, there are still many challenges that lie ahead. How will Israel be able to maintain safety and security over its northern border, allowing its citizens to return to their homes? How will it ensure that Hamas or a Hamas-like structure will not reemerge within Gaza? How can Israel continue to fight on all these fronts and eliminate the threats from within Judea and Samaria? Will Israel be able to attack the Iranian nuclear infrastructure or its oil bases? Can Israel depend on anyone other than itself to do the job? Here to answer these questions and more is our esteemed friend, General Amir Avivi. General Amir Avivi is the founder and chairman of the Israel Defense Security Forum, or Habitonistim. During his service, Amir held a series of very senior roles in the IDF, including Deputy Controller of the Security Forces, Director of the Office of the Chief of Staff, Deputy Commander of the Gaza Division, Commander of the Sagai Division, Commander of Battalion 605, and Commander of the School of Combat Engineering. First of all, Amir, yesterday, the Hamas figurehead Khalid Mashal said from the comfort of his home in Qatar that, quote, Hamas will rise from the ashes like a phoenix. What is the state of Hamas in Gaza today?
So Israel basically set the terms for the destruction of Hamas as a military and governmental entity by basically dismantling all their brigades. The Hamas are terrorists scattered in Gaza army. We destroyed all their industries. We closed the Egyptian border in a way they cannot capabilities into Gaza, so they cannot renew themselves. And Israel is constantly attacking and degrading, toppling their leadership, their commanders in the field. And anywhere they try to reorganize, the IDF launches an attack, as we are doing now in the northern part of Gaza. And we saw the 7th of October, they really tried hard to carry out attack. At the end of the day, they shot a few.
think Amir might be reconnecting.
Yeah, sorry. I want to remind you that a year ago, in one day, they shot 4,300 rockets. This 7th of October, they shot less than 10. So this is where Hamas is, being destroyed systematically. And now one of the challenges of Israel is how to dismantle Hamas as a governmental entity. And in order to do so, we need to really control the humanitarian aid in a way that it won't go to Hamas, but only to the Palestinian citizens. And for that, we are moving all the Palestinian citizens to the humanitarian designated zone. And then in all other areas of Gaza, which is most of Gaza, the IDF will put a siege on the terrorists, really making sure they don't get any humanitarian aid. And this will speed up a capability to really destroy them. So Israel is not going to stop until Hamas is eradicated and we bring back all the hostages, all of them. And now that Hamas sees how fast we are dismantling Hezbollah, this creates even more discouragement and understanding that they cannot have help. Hezbollah cannot help them. Iran cannot help them. At the end of the day, they're going to be destroyed.
Excellent. We knew that the war in the north was inevitable. And we have heard and trembled about the 150,000 to the 200,000 missiles that Hezbollah possesses or possessed before the war, some of them precision guided. What is the state of Hezbollah's firepower today?
So Hezbollah is left with maybe 20% of its capabilities. The IDF destroyed most of them, and then continuing degrading them all the time. And also because the IDF in 2 weeks toppled all the leadership of Hezbollah, both the strategic leadership and also most of the commanders on the field. They don't really have anybody giving commands. So their whole command and control has been completely disrupted. And they are very, very ineffective. And of course, the motivation and overall sense, they understand that they are being destroyed. I was, all throughout the last 11 months to a year, I said that the day we'll go from defense to offensive in Lebanon, we'll see a completely different scenario. But even I am surprised at how optimistic it was overall. It's amazing what the IDF is doing with the Mossad. And I think the whole region and the whole world is looking astonishment. It's astonishing, and people are really amazed at what Israel is able to do. And in a very short time, the two strongest forces Iran built for years, for 20 years, are going to be dismantled. And this will really enable Israel to focus on the next step on Iran.
So it looks like much of the Radan force of Hezbollah has been totally obliterated, from Nasser Nasrallah to his heir apparent Hasham Destruction. So that creates a rudderless ship. Where are the Rajwan forces and Hezbollah getting their commands from? Is it directly from Tehran?
Yeah, I mean, everything comes from Tehran, the weapons, the guidance, the money. But the Iranians they don't have anybody to speak to because all the commanders they knew were toppled. And we really see a reality where Israel can bring Hezbollah to such a situation that might bring the Lebanese to have enough to get of them. So the IDF is attacking constantly, all the time attacking. And as we see Hamas with less and less capabilities and munitions, with maybe 5% rockets, from what they had before, and Hezbollah maybe with 20%. In Israel, it's completely the opposite situation. The Israeli industries are producing more and more and more munitions. I met yesterday with the Minister of Defense and afterwards with the CEO of the ministry, and I asked Eyal, the CEO, okay, how are we doing with the munitions? Talking about the Air Force, he said to me, listen, it's amazing. I mean, we started with very few on the 7th of October. Till now, we shot a huge amount of munitions, and now we have much, much, much more. So really the pace in which Israel is producing, growing, getting stronger and stronger every day is unbelievable. While our enemies are losing their capabilities, left with very few munitions, and with no leadership, with no headquarters. And so we are moving towards a decisive win. Still, we'll have difficult moments. It's still a challenge. But I think this coming year is going to look completely different from the last year.
Right. Speaking of Iran, on October 1st, the Islamic Republic launched about 181 to 200 missiles at Israeli targets in 2 waves. None of them did any major damage. This was the second time Iran attempted a direct attack on the Jewish state since April 13th, 2024. Again, that resulted in no real damage. Iran and its main terror proxy, Hezbollah, appear to be very weakened. Do you believe now would be an opportune moment for Israel to launch an attack at least some of Iran's nuclear infrastructure, or perhaps its oil production, or both?
Israel has 4 choices or a combination of these choices. It can topple the leadership of Iran, the way we did with Hezbollah and Hamas. It can attack infrastructure like the oil refineries, can attack the nuclear program, and it can also attack the military capabilities of Iran, or a combination. I don't think, I'm not sure that we're going to attack at the moment the nuclear sites, but I can say decisively that this year we need to get rid of Iran capabilities, in one moment or the other, whether it will be this week or in 4 months, or at a certain point we have to deal with Iran. So once we get rid of Hamas and Hezbollah, or we weaken them dramatically, basically the whole attention of Israel is going to go to Iran. And of course, also to inner security, the West Bank, the Judea and Samaria, and Israeli Arabs. But strategically speaking, the whole focus will be on Iran. And I think that we're definitely going to destroy their capabilities. The question is when, and this we'll see. But they're going to be hit very, very hard. And I think that the fact that they shot at us maybe 20% of their missiles and nobody was hurt, it shows us that, you know, like we managed to dismantle Hezbollah in 2 weeks, we understand that our enemies are much weaker than we might have thought. And this emboldens, of course, the society, the government, the cabinet, the military, to say, okay, this is the moment, and we can win decisively. We have to attack and really, really create a completely different future for our kids and for Israel.
So, how much opposition do you believe there is within Lebanon of Hezbollah? Do you know the breakdown of the Christians and the Sunni Muslims that have not bought into the Hezbollah ideology?
So there is a lot of opposition, the Sunnis, the Christians, the Maronis, the Druze, and as Israel is weakening Hezbollah and toppling all their leadership and capabilities, this emboldens also other groups inside Lebanon to contemplate really dealing with Hezbollah. And this is the messages Israel are sending. The prime minister is talking to the Lebanese people, or reach the leaders there and say, this is your moment. We'll help you. Let's get rid of Hezbollah and of Iran. And it's something that is realistic, that might actually happen.
I was a little disappointed yesterday to read the news that both Egypt and Jordan expressed support for Lebanon against, quote, the Israeli aggression on all fronts. What does that have to tell us about, the first two Sunni Arab nations that made peace with Israel?
On one hand, we have peace and we have common interests with Egypt and Jordan, and they're both, let's say, on the Western side, American side. On the other hand, both countries have societies that are very, very hateful towards Israel. Both regimes are afraid of a situation that the regime will be under internal pressure and danger. So they tend to say what they think that their people would like to hear. But there is a difference between what they say on the media and what they talk with Israel. Having said that, Egypt is doing a very big military buildup, and we have to look at it and understand that peace will not necessarily be forever. And we have to take seriously their capabilities and the buildup they are doing.
So, with that, I think it's really important to address Israel's need to control the Philadelphia corridor and at least the perimeters of Gaza. And, while you're at it, if you want to talk a little bit about the need for Israel to maintain control, at least for the time being, in Lebanon between the Litani River and the Blue Line.
So talking about Gaza, in order to make sure that never again there will be a terror army in Gaza Strip, we need two things. One is controlling Philadelphia. The other thing is full freedom of operation for the IDF everywhere in Gaza in order to prevent any buildup again of terror. We have to remember that in Oslo, we retreated from the cities. We handed them to the Palestinian Authority in 1994. We were on Philadelphia. We had towns inside Gaza, but it was enough that we didn't operate in the cities for the Palestinian Authority to take Gaza all the way from the Stone Age to shooting rockets in 7 years. So by 2001, the Palestinians from Gaza started shooting rockets on Israel. And 7 years before, they were literally in the Stone Age. And this is just by not operating in the cities. We were in Philadelphia. We had towns inside Gaza. So it's not enough to be on Philadelphia. You need full freedom of operation like we have in Judea and Samaria. And these two operational capabilities are needed to keep Gaza clean of terror as much as possible.
Right. So we have a lot of questions that have come in from the audience. First of all, to what degree is there U.S. involvement? I know that they've sent 3 aircraft carriers now and 1 nuclear submarine. Is this a warning sign to Israel not to attack Iran, or do you think they would help, or is it just to scare off Iran?
So there is a coalition in the Middle East that is helping Israel to defend against Iranian shooting, but also trying to stabilize, try not to have a regional war. But I've said it all along, the way to stabilize the situation is to attack Iran, to destroy their nuclear capabilities and to deter them. when they are not deterred, there is no stability. In order to create stability, you need to concentrate an attack of 2-3 days, destroy all their capabilities, and then the whole Shia axis will collapse and we can stabilize the region. What we did in 2 weeks against Hezbollah, a coalition can do in 3 days against Iran. It's not boots on the ground. It's not 20 years. It's not Iraq or Afghanistan. Something altogether different. And Israel is showing, as we are dealing with Hezbollah, how it can be done in a very effective and short time. And it's a challenge to really get the US to understand that this is the right path and this is what needs to be done to really create stability.
So even Vice President Kamala Harris on 60 Minutes on Sunday said that our number one enemy is Iran. And the meantime, it seems as though Israel is being left on its own to really eviscerate the nuclear infrastructure. Do you believe that there is a way to defeat Iran, to support the Iranian people to rise up against the regime, and more importantly, we have learned from many Republican senators that the U.S. State Department is holding up the arms that Israel needs to be able to complete the job. Do you think Israel could do this job without the support from the United States?
I think that Israel has a lot of capabilities and can deal with Iran in many ways. And we'll see that soon enough. But a country the size of Iran and the distance Iran is from Israel, I think that obviously the best scenario is a coalition led by the US to deal with the Iranian nuclear threat. And in this sense, it's going to be very interesting to see what will be the outcome of the elections, because I think this will define the next administration will define where this is going, whether Israel is alone and we have to deal with this by ourselves, which we'll do, by the way, or there is actually an administration that understands the role of the US as leaders on the global arena and the regional arena and lead a coalition against Iran.
And yeah, we're almost coming to a close. This is going so fast, but I want to ask you one final question, and that is, this has been the longest war in Israel's history. First of all, what is the morale like of the Israeli people, and what is the morale like within the IDF?
Well, the independence war was 1.5 years. It was not yet the longest war. It might be. At the end of the day, I believe it will be. But the morale, I think that since the pagers and the killing of Nasrallah and so on, the morale is very high in Israel, I think. People want decisive victory, and they don't want the military to stop. They're not looking for ceasefires. They want to win.
Right.
They really want a win, and I think there is a lot of optimism.
Right. Oh, we can keep going. It's all, we started at 10:30. My fault. Okay. So, yeah, and the morale, I know that the IDF, hundreds of young boys have fallen. Yet the morale within the IDF, how would you rate it if you had a barometer to rate the morale within the IDF?
I think I talked to the units. The morale is high. When the soldiers feel that they're doing a meaningful job, that they're sent to meaningful missions, that things are moving towards victory, this creates morale. And so, yes, people are, working hard, they're tired, reserve. I've been doing a lot of reserve. But when you see results, this encourages, the unity. They say, okay, we're really making a difference. We're really winning. So I think that in this sense, really, the morale is high.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Here in the United States, we've had unprecedented waves of anti-Semitism, especially among our college students. On October 7th, there were really disgusting rallies, not in empathy for the Palestinians, but of support of the obliteration of the Jewish state. When they say from the river to the sea, Palestine should be free, it just means one thing. Um, and we've seen something interesting happening within the American Jewish student population. Many young Jewish kids who are not at all identified somehow are finding their inner Zionist and their inner core. They're running to Hillel houses and Chabad houses, and um, this is awakening a spark within them. Um, have have you noticed anything like that? I know that you speak a lot in the United States.
Yeah, I think that, as the war is moving towards victory and people see what Israel is doing, it makes Jews very proud. And I think it's going to be very similar to what happened in the Six-Day War. Maybe it's a long war, not a Six-Day War, but the result will be very clear. And this will empower a lot the Jewish people. And I also very soon, I think that Israel will be, the safest place for Jews, as it always was. But it will be much clearer. And I believe there will be a lot of aliyah to Israel in the coming years following the war, because it was also going to be after the war peace agreements and economical boom, and a lot of good things are going to happen following the war.
Right. Do you believe the countries, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, Sudan, who signed the Abraham Accords, how have they been responding to this war?
Well, all the Sunni world is amazed and really happy about Israel by itself dismantling the Shia axis, which endangers them a lot. And this obviously will create a lot of interest to be in contact with Israel and have relations. So this will boost peace agreements eventually. And what's I think sad to see is that the U.S. could have ridden on this success, be part of it. When Israel is willing decisively, if the U.S. joins, they will win a huge victory. And talking all the time about ceasefires, it's something, I cannot comprehend. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Because I think the American people, the vast majority, are patriotic. They like winners. They want to be part of the victory. They want to see a strong country. I met one of the high officials of the U.S. and was talking to me all the time about ceasefires and coming things. And I said to him, I was looking at the entrance of the room at the symbol of the U.S. The eagle holding arrows. And I said to him, what happened to you guys? You used to be eagles. Now you are doves. America cannot be doves. It needs to be an eagle. You cannot really build leadership in the world by just appeasing all the time.
There's never been a time in history that appeasement has worked. Victory
No,
only works. Yeah. History loves winners. Nothing succeeds like success. And
definitely. And especially, if you have a country like Israel that hands you the win on a silver platter, all you need to do is join and enjoy the win.
right.
I think even politically speaking, I think it would really benefit, the administration looking at the upcoming election. So I think that even politically doesn't make sense not to. I mean, if I was the US president, I would launch now an attack on Iran, destroy all their nuclear sites and take the credit for the US. Say, we did it. Israel is showing that it can be done, so why not do it? I mean, we're already almost eradicated Hezbollah and Hamas. This is the moment. And it's sad that it's not happening.
Right, right. It's going to be, unfortunately, if America does not go on the winning side, it'll be a blight on American history. Yeah, and nature abhors a vacuum, and we see Iran, linking forces as it has for so long with Russia and China. Um, so, it is, and Russia, China, and Iran are America's greatest enemies. So I don't know what America's waiting for. This is really the time. Um, let me see if we have other questions from the audience. What is your feeling about attacking the Iranian oil fields?
I think that this is something that, because at the moment it's not in the US interest to have oil prices going up before elections, I don't think that this is something Israel will do now. But looking at the future, definitely. So there's a difference between what would we do before elections and after elections. So, but it's an option. It's always an option.
Yeah. Do you know definitively the fate of Yahya Sinwar?
No, we suspect that it might not be alive, but we don't have proof. So Israel is careful in saying that he's not alive because we are not sure.
Right, right. Okay. And what has the response been of the Palestinians living within Judea and Samaria during this war?
Well, they are all the time being incited by all the groups, including the Palestinian Authority, trying to launch terror attacks. The IDF is very proactive there, arresting all the time, attacking, foiling terror attacks, and it has been ongoing. Overall, the Central Command is doing a very good job in maintaining this area under control.
As far as you're concerned, do you believe that the Israeli people have finally rejected the fallacious notion of land for peace, the Oslo Accords, the Gaza withdrawal? Have they learned something from all of this?
Yeah, I don't think the politicians or some of the left-wing generals have learned much, but the Israeli society definitely. And most of the society views very differently now, these things. And they still want to see solutions, and they want a future of peace, but much more connected to reality and understanding of who are our enemies, what they want to do, what are their plans, how do we need to look at it. And think that very few people will be willing in the future to push ideas that will endanger them.
So, if the elections were held today, what would the Knesset look like?
It's hard to say because I think that next elections there will be new forces. I can tell you that Israeli society is fed up from the existing politicians, all of them, by the way, left and right and center. So the society is looking for new leaders to step forward, and there will be new forces. How it will look exactly, it's hard to predict. So, but overall, I think the society is going to the right, talking about security and the way they look at solutions. But the society is also, they want, liberalism, democracy, and not woke. Difference between liberalism and woke. Talking about real liberalism. And of course, the society is more connected to Zionism, more connected to Judaism.
A beautiful awakening. It's an amazing awakening. Yeah, yeah.
Definitely, there is an awakening.
It's beautiful. It's been a long time coming, I think. but thank God it's coming, you know. So I'm just going to wrap up by telling everyone that we are unbelievably grateful to Brigadier General Amir Avivi for his brilliant insights and analyses. I want to remind everyone that we are on Capitol Hill every week, several times a week, meeting with members of Congress on both sides of the aisle. Our basic effort is to move the needle towards empathy, towards what the Jewish state is up against, towards an acknowledgement and a recognition that Israel is fighting the war for all of Western civilization and keeping America safe. And it really is up to the United States to help support Israel. They never want an American to take a bullet for Israel, but at least give Israel the ability, the capabilities, the military, and the arsenal that they need to be able to defend the Jewish state. Please, I ask all of you to come to our dinner. It's going to be incredible with Musab Hussein Yosef, Elise Stefanik, Jared Moskowitz, and Shabbos Kestenbaum on November 19th in Washington, D.C. We are quickly getting a momentum and more support for this. And please reserve your tickets while you can and support Emet in any way you can. I don't know of any other organization that is on Capitol Hill almost every day doing the job that we're doing. And I thank you, Amir, from the bottom of our hearts.
Pleasure. My pleasure.
The IDSF is doing an amazing job. And please also support idsf.org. It's a very important organization. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.